Hi, so this video is all about the effectiveness of unit planning. After Module 5, we've learned a lot about unit planning, and I had an opportunity to observe a couple mentor teachers, as well as some pretty cool videos online about effective unit planning. And some of the things that we talked about were unpacking standards, backwards mapping, objectives, applying standards, formative and summative assessments, differentiation in instruction, scaffolding, high impact teaching strategies. And we had an opportunity to see how all of these work together. Lesson planning is most effective when it's carefully thought out. One of the things I really learned in this module that I didn't even really focus on as much when I was getting my master's degree in curriculum and instruction was unpacking the standards. We certainly have a lot of experience looking at standards and teaching standards, but this particular module really had me slow down, really look at the standards, unpack them first, really looking at all of those key terms. What exactly was it looking for? Because by doing that, I am more likely to teach effectively. I'm more likely to cover the standard more completely and even find pretty cool ways to accomplish even more than I had been accomplishing previously. And by unpacking those standards and then backwards mapping, I was able to really focus on my objectives. And focusing on the objectives helps me be a more effective teacher in the classroom. And then when we put it all together with what we've learned and been practicing over the years, and especially during these Teach Now modules, with procedures and classroom management, I really can already feel a difference in my teaching, so that's been pretty cool. I had an opportunity to observe a couple different early childhood classrooms to see how they did their lesson planning and how effective they were in meeting their objectives in scaffolding and in providing a variety of instructional methods. And some of the pretty cool formative assessments I got to see really had to do with like exit tickets or exit slips. In early childhood, it seemed most effective to do that verbally, asking the kids questions to just see where they're at the end of the lesson before I move on to the next activity. One of my mentor teachers did that fairly regularly throughout her day. In fact, if there was a newer concept that she was really focusing on, she used it during all transitions. When they were lining up, she would review and say, let's ask them a question as their turn to get in line. And I noticed it was a pretty cool usage of time management as well as instruction at doing that formative assessment, see where they're at. Is it really sticking in their long-term memory, or are they just mimicking back what they're hearing? Also, just prompting and asking questions and expecting the full correct response. I see that a lot as formative assessments, not letting them just give a partial answer. And if they didn't know the correct answer, having somebody else answer and then coming back to them and having them repeat that answer so that they were getting an opportunity to use the vocabulary and talk about what they've learned. So I actually saw two different teachers using that fairly regularly. As far as summative assessments go in early childhood, a lot of times I noticed that the teachers will do more project-based. And that's what I ended up doing for my unit plan, putting it all together, letting them create something to demonstrate their work. If it's in literature, if we're allowing them to retell the story from start to finish. It talks about comprehension and sequencing, plus it gives them an opportunity to sort of be the teacher. I found that to be an effective summative assessment. And as far as in this math unit that I just planned, I asked another early childhood teacher to show me how she would do a summative assessment of shapes and she pretty much just held up shapes and asked them to respond with the correct name. But one thing I noticed in the standards when I was unpacking the standards was that they need to do more than just memorize those shape names. They need to know that it's not just that poster that's a circle. They need to know that this object, this plate in the dramatic play center, is also in the circle shape. Those unpacking the standards really helped me focus on the fact that it's more, a shape remains a shape regardless of its orientation, position, or size. So I also watched a video of a lesson that I created with my live binder, and it showed a pretty neat way to teach shapes and having the kids create shapes in groups with yarn. And while I thought it was a pretty cool idea, it also highlighted the importance of really doing more than just planning on paper, really trying it out to see if it's effective. Because one thing I noticed when I was watching the video is the children, more often than not, were off task. They were either goofing around with partners because the teacher couldn't be in enough places when she was needed to be, or the string was tangled and she was over helping some kids get their yarn untangled while others were bored because they've already made their square and they're waiting for the teacher. And so they were getting rowdy and she had a hard time bringing them back. So while I thought that was a pretty cool idea, I was able to tweak my plans to use wiki sticks instead, allowing them to work in pairs or to help each other, but at the same time, they could also be working independently. And I thought that was a pretty good scaffolding strategy as well. And another big thing about this unit plan was scaffolding and just creating a number of ways to teach each lesson in my unit to meet the individual needs of all of my students. And I really appreciated the scaffolding strategies that we talked about. Some of them that I've already started using are, examples and visual aids. I've created little shape cue cards on a little key ring for the kids so that when we're walking around doing a shape hunt, trying to find those shapes in the environment, which is part of the standard that I need to meet in my unit, they have an example in their hand if they need it. And then we can work away from that scaffold, try it again without that little cue card in their hand. And then just planning through those different ways of instructing and helping each child be successful really gives me peace of mind as I work through my unit that they will be able to accomplish my big goal, that project-based learning. That was game-based and project-based learning. I did run my lesson plan by a number of different teachers just to see what they thought, and a couple glitches to work through, mainly time constraints. But another teacher did share with me that she has tried a similar strategy in her classroom and it worked very well. The kids had fun creating, it was 21st century skill, and that just allowing them to be the producer gave them great pride, and she felt it really did accomplish the summative assessment goal that you would hope for a Unit 5 activity. So all in all, unit planning really, this was a great module for me. Appreciated all the different aspects of lesson planning, the value of being intentional, breaking it apart, making sure objectives are in there, making sure I'm intentional with my differentiation strategies, making sure I'm intentional with my scaffolding strategies, that I've thought through my assessments, that I have an easy way to track. Thinking it's naive to think that I will remember day to day without some sort of way to track that information. So all in all, I'm excited about my unit plan and I look forward to using it.